Houdin. Jean-Henri Houdin. He was a staffer too.
Houdin? Huh. The victim?
And then you're saying it was suicide. There's a possibility, and I think it's worth considering. After all, the victim was buried under a considerable debt. You're quite right. It is a possibility we haven't paid much consideration to.
I need some time to think.
It works, doesn't it? The victim was the only one at the crime scene within that window of time. That would mean the only person who could kill the victim was the victim himself. And if it really was suicide, that would answer a few of our questions. Like, why was there blood splatter on the ceiling? You think the blood splatter was left when the victim committed suicide? I do. If we're looking at this as a suicide, there are no objections to be raised. No objections? Have you seen the state of the corpse? His skull was caved in, but putting aside how it could have happened. If you're saying he killed himself with a blow to the head without leaving behind the weapon he used to do it, there's simply no way that can be possible. Is that so? You raise a fair point. What do you think about that note? If I'm going to support my suicide claim, I'll need to refute Detective Bryant's objective. I'm not sure myself, but if it wasn't suicide, there may be a clue that can be used to refute my hypothesis. However, if my claim to suicide is correct, I may be able to shatter both of their objections. We're at a crossroads here. I need to think this through and come up with a proper rebuttal. Okay. Wait, what? At some point, I will get this right. No. Sergeant, I'm sorry, but I think you're wrong. About what? There's still a lot I don't know about the staffers, but they're all able to control their skills, right? I can't say there are exceptions, but if a staffer could use their skills subconsciously, then there'd be a note of it on that person's bureau file. Then, just as I thought, this isn't right.
Is that so?
Thus, the objection.
Would the two of you put an actual subject in your sentence? What exactly isn't right?
The victim didn't commit suicide.
What? But you're the one who brought that idea up, Note.
I considered it as a possibility, but I was wrong. Why the sudden change of heart? We'd love to hear an explanation. Well, there isn't much to explain. You remember what I was saying before. The victim was snoring right up to the moment he died. To put it in the simplest terms, he was sleeping. He slept up to the moment of his death. It may seem obvious to say out loud, but sleeping people don't try to commit suicide. Thus, I thought it might have been an accident caused by him using his skill in his sleep, but Brian's explanation just a second ago stole that possibility away, yes? After all, there was nothing about that in his bureau file. Right. Sorry to turn investigation on its head. It happens. I thought it'd be a clever idea. Who would have seen the flaw in your argument? Then,
What was all that you said earlier? What about the blood on the ceiling? Pandy figured if her blood sprayed up there when the victim committed suicide, no?
The blood was probably to throw us off the trail. I bet it's not even blood from the victim.
What was that? If not from the victims, whose blood is it?
If you think about the amount of blood up there, I doubt the owner of said blood walked away from the scene unscathed. Speaking of which, one of the clues left at the scene of the crime did seem out of place. Just maybe it can tell us the previous vessel for all that blood. A stray feather was left at the crime scene.
A feather?
According to the sergeant's investigation, there's a high likelihood the feather belonged to the pigeon that they found in that garbage bag. Alright, the pigeon. I thought it rather suspicious and tried to look for footprints left around the pigeon, but all the feathers on the floor made further investigation impossible. In the end, we can't be certain who killed that pigeon. Unfortunately, the person who killed that pigeon is also the true criminal behind this case. A criminal?
But if it was our criminal who killed the pigeon, why go through all that trouble?
Killing that pigeon was just one step in the killer's process. The killer needed something. Have you forgotten? What question did you just ask, Detective Thana?
Thinking back, I guess I asked about the blood on the ceiling. Ah!
That blood doesn't belong to the victim. There was only one creature shedding blood at the time of the murder. The poor pigeon tossed into a garbage bag. The killer had to do that to the pigeon because painting the ceiling with blood was another part of their plan. The blood was a cover-up. The killer was trying to throw us off their scent. Exactly. The killer was trying to disguise the murder as a suicide. That's it. The true purpose behind the pageantry. If we had fallen for it and ended his case by calling the murder a suicide, if that was the killer's true purpose, we almost played right into the killer's hand.
But wait, we said there was no one else capable of committing a crime.
We're just saying that every staffer, including the victim, was able to pull this off.
So we've got nothing left to go on but the ice, no?
You know that's not true. Yet, since there were no other footprints left at the scene, it's clear that no one else entered the scene when he died. It's not like the killer flew in. But I can't think of a single person who could have put off the crime without stepping foot in that room. The suspect's skills all have such short ranges. Once we exclude suicide, we know our killer is out there. However, the killer never left a trace at the scene of the crime. Everything about the crime contradicts some other part. Let me think. Is there really no one? Someone able to make the impossible possible. There may have been one other person. Someone able to enter the room without leaving a single trace.
In the end, it's back to the ice, huh?
We already concluded that wasn't the case. And your theory is starting to be less entertaining. Ugh. But, note, you're not making much sense either. Unless our culprit can sprout wings and fly, there's no way they could possibly avoid being detected by me and Sarge. That's exactly what happened. Our culprit flew. Excuse me, none of our suspects have a skill like that. One does.
But you're right, none can fly per se. Maybe we can say it's more like jumping through the air. What? Jumping through the air? I feel like I've read something like that before. Maybe right here. Ah, right. It is right there. The jumping jester.
Oh! This poster! Right here?
Yes. The person we've been searching for is pictured right there. Our jumping jester was able to enter the scene of the crime without leaving a single footprint. Thus, it's possible that our jumping jester was able to murder the victim. And out of all the people we know, I can think of only one jester. The clown, Julia Geller. With that one person only, this crime becomes possible. In the end, after winding around for this long, we're back at the beginning with Geller being our culprit?
No, if we had singled out Geller as our culprit in the beginning, she would have had a number of ways to argue how she was innocent. However, now that we've reached this point and erased every other possibility, the conclusion may be the same, but we're finally coming face to face with the truth of this case for the first time. As unfortunate as that truth may be.
What now? Miss Geller, we saw the poster with all of you on it. We're well aware of the fantastic stunt you're able to pull off.
Yes, and
of course, your stunt, Miss Geller.
what was it again? I can't quite remember. If you've got nothing to say to me, can I go back with the others? No, stop with the fanfare and get to the point.
Miss Geller, your stunt is being able to walk on air, isn't it?
Actually, it's leaping.
I mean, leaping, dancing, it's all basically the same thing. The important thing is you're able to enter the scene of the crime without leaving a single footprint using that stunt of yours.
So it seems.
Huh?
Why does that surprise you? What, no? You're not using that as a way of suspecting me for this, are you?
But you're the only person who was able to enter the scene of the crime without leaving any footprints.
I'm always going in and out of there. Even if I were to leave a footprint after committing some sort of crime, I could say they were from shortly before.
You actually couldn't have because of Detective Brian. Alright. She doesn't know that we could tell everything to the time trace evidence was left. In other words, even if Miss Geller is our culprit,
Even if I were the killer, I wouldn't have to go through the trouble of hovering. Plus, I'm not that good at controlling my skill in the first place. I don't really use it except on stage. Or is it that you have evidence I used my skill at the scene of the crime?
about that, could you give me a moment? What should I do?
What do you think?
Geller's claim is reasonable. After all, there's no way for her to know of Brian's skill. She's right that she'd have no reason to float through the air to enter that room. Even if she were to leave a set of footprints, we'd have no way of proving those prints were left at the time of the crime without my skill. That was not British at all. Can't be. Did I get it wrong again?
Still, I think you've got the right idea, Note.
Huh?
In her statement thus far, Geller's been quite easy to get worked up, but now she's being pointed out as her prime suspect? Will you be much longer?
Could you wait outside for a moment?
See, she's keeping calm and collected. She probably expected this moment would come, and she's prepared her counter-arguments as well. Well, I think that's the case. We can't be sure.
No, what you're saying sounds plausible. What do the rest of you think? When it comes down to Thana and the suspect's psyche, she's never wrong. I believe you can trust her call. Detective Thana, as I should have known, there's a reason she's in charge of interrogations. Still, comes as a shock. Geller stepped through the air when she entered our crime scene, but her reason for doing so wasn't to hide any trace of her being in there. In other words, Miss Geller had a different reason for using her skill. I'm not sure what that could be, though. We're still lacking some sort of clue.
You really think so?
3 staffers have already looked into this case. We've uncovered lies, detected the invisible, and read into the past. No matter what the skill is, it's impossible for a culprit to not leave behind some sort of clue. A clue remains, we just overlooked it. We wrote it off as something that didn't pertain to the case, because it was all too neat. It's not the clues that are lacking, but our overall logic. That's my feeling in this case. In the end, it's all feeling or perceptions. Aston confirmed that the victim was alive at 8 o'clock, and Vernon confirmed he was dead by 8:45. Somewhere in between, Gala must have used her skill to sneak into the room. And she did. She must have left a clue. Is there really nothing to go on? With everything at the scene of the crime, was there no suspicious trace evidence left during the time our crime was committed? When you say clue, something does come to mind. There were those squared impressions left at the crime scene. Do you all remember them? Right, the ones Brian claimed were stepping stones made of ice? We concluded they weren't ice in the end. Exactly. Then we naturally just moved past them. But now that I'm thinking about them again, they were made at 8:30. So within the time frame the victim was murdered. Thus, it must be connected to the crime. But why were they even made? About that. It's not just those impressions. There's still so many clues in this case we can't come up with proper explanations for. Our overall hypothesis was wrong. Something I believed to be true turns out to be false. That one falsehood leads to all these errors. Sergeant? Yes? What is it? I'm going to make a bit of a mess. Hey, stop! What are you doing? Why are you fooling around with these official documents? Note, I think you should fix this habit of yours of taking your stress out on inanimate objects. This isn't about the stress. If it's not, then we have even more to worry about. I've been thinking about things all wrong. The secrets hiding the deepest can't be solved by simply connecting 2 clues. However, if we connect all the fragments left in different places... I have no idea what you're going on about, but are you saying you can make sense of this? I am. Using supernatural abilities to investigate a case where someone with a supernatural ability killed someone else with a supernatural ability. In this situation, it'd be insane to stick with common sense. I've already gathered my clues. Let's toss out common sense. Let's take every basis of thought and smash them all. Select one clue from each of the 6 documents that points to the same conclusion. Click the Combine button in the center. Try a combination to see how many clues you've entered correctly. Try to find all 6 that point to the same conclusion. The position of the documents is unrelated to the pattern of the correct answers. So it's that. I don't know if this is right. Let's give that a shot. Shoot. Unlocked it. That's it. If you think about it like that, it explains everything. And to prove it... Miss Geller, please come back in.
Is your strategy session finishing up?
It is. And from that strategy session, we've come up with a suggestion for you. What might that be?
Wait, let's see what he's going to do.
Miss Geller, your stunt is leaping through the air, so could you show that to Detective Dana and Brian here?
Well, I'm sorry, but that'd be quite difficult. As I said before, I'm not that good at controlling my skill. Those two would be in danger if they're too close.
That's fine.
Wait a tick. It's very much not fine. She said it's dangerous for us.
You two simply won't get too close when Miss Geller performs her stunt. If you wish, we have no problem setting up a suitable location for you. We just need you to show it to us a single time. If you just show us, I promise we won't bother you or your friends any longer. Wait a second. Note. That's quite the promise to be tossing out there.
I'll permit it.
Pandy, have you lost your marbles?
Sorry. I want to see what happens next. Perhaps my curiosity has gotten the better of me.
Well, if the sergeant's given her permission, there's nothing we can do about it.
Am I the only one who's thinking about her job and salary? I accept. You're not going to back out on your end of the promise, are you?
Of course not. I could swear to whatever god you believe in.
Well then, let me begin right here. As I said, you mustn't get too close. This is my stunt.
My word!
And people pay to see this? I'll have you know that I even juggle up here when I take the stage.
The stunt? What on earth?
Hey, don't give her that much grief for it. After all, she's showing us for free.
That's not it. It's just... Detective Brian, please describe exactly what you're seeing. How does Miss Geller's levitation look through your eyes? She's not levitating. As soon as she rose into the air, below her, I saw a trace of that same square. Same as the trace evidence left at the scene of the crime.
Trace? No, you're a staffer.
There must be contact between two objects for trace to be left. In other words, you're not making yourself float in the air, Miss Geller. You're just stepping up and standing there. There's an invisible object under you, and you created it.
No. What's this about an invisible object? This is all coming out of nowhere.
This is your real skill, Miss Geller. You can create invisible objects of any size and manipulate them at will. To put it in official terms, indiscernible object fabrication.
What?
What?
But her telekinesis!
Everyone thought of it like that, but it's not the case. This is the piece of the puzzle that wasn't fitting. Miss Geller, in the very beginning, you've been hiding your true skill. The stunt you have of leaping through the air wasn't that you were lifting up your body with your skill. You've just been making invisible footholds and jumping onto them. Telekinesis. That label sounded rather grandiose. Yet the statement of the audience members and those around Geller were consistent, so I never doubted them. Note, you may not know this yet, but it's a serious crime to lie about one's skills in this country. Why would Geller take such a risk to hide her skill like that? She only began to hide her skill after coming under the employment tower. When you think of all that happened back then, it's rather easy to predict exactly why Miss Geller felt it necessary to hide her true skill. When the victim first saw Miss Geller leaping through the air, he must have thought, I finally found it. I finally found the acrobat I've been looking for, wielding the power of telekinesis. Yet, it was too good to be true. Miss Geller's true skill was creating invisible objects. As time passed, Miss Geller realized she wasn't the person the ringleader was looking for. Thus, she began her efforts to hide this fact from him. All this matches your statement. Isn't that right, Miss Geller? Your string of lies, they were all to keep you here. The truth you tried to hide? It's not just a range or some small intricacy regarding your skill, and now we all know it. The truth of your skill itself is a grand forgery. Your skill doesn't use telekinesis. Telekinesis plays no part in it.
How did a staffer become an investigator? I think I get it now. I think I understand how you all saw through my lies. It's not just that gentleman there. Every investigator in this room is a staffer. Isn't that right? Your bracelets aren't lit up, but you wear them just like other staffers.
She's found us out, though strictly speaking, I'm no staffer.
You have no connections to the Bureau, so you wouldn't understand. However, some Bureau divisions do employ a number of staffers. They merely keep it confidential, so it doesn't interfere with operations.
Should you be telling her that?
No need to hide such information from our perpetrator. After all, I doubt she's going to continue resisting. Just as you said, Detective, my skill has nothing to do with telekinesis. Instead, I'm able to create invisible objects at will. The objects are more or less cubes, but I can create them in various weights and sizes, making them handy in a variety of situations. It's probably how the word manipulation worked its way into my skill name. I've been placing objects on top of my invisible objects and floating them around, calling it telekinesis.
She's rather brave to try to deceive everyone around her like that.
And of course, you know everything now, yes? How I killed the ringleader? What I used to kill him.
Come to think of it, I still haven't figured out the mystery of the vanishing murder weapon.
Huh? No, wait. The weapon? You still haven't found it, have you?
This isn't good. What?
In the end, I turned out to be quite the bad girl. To hide my skill from the ringleader, basically my family, I have no excuse for the fraud you accuse me of. However, I didn't kill him.
Is she telling the truth? Or is she trying to hold out on us? Miss Geller, you're the only person we can say for sure committed this crime.
I couldn't have done it either. After all, there's no murder weapon. You've got trace evidence on the floor, yes. Do you have any proof it was my skill that left it? As I said before, I had no reason for using my skill to go into that room, and even if I did go in there, I had no weapon to kill him with. You think I could do that with this head? To his head with my bare hands? Don't be absurd. Are you trying to make me lose my job here?
You. The audacity.
So, time for you to keep your word. No more questions for any of us. I think it might be time to reveal what the vanishing weapon might be.
Sergeant, do you have any ideas?
Me? No, but obviously you're about to figure it out.
When was that made obvious exactly? This is my first day on the job.
Right, and I'm relieved to see that you're adjusting so well.
The arduous path I'm about to set on is slowly coming to light.
Now that I'm thinking about it, we've talked about the disappearing weapon quite a number of times, but we haven't covered a single thing about it. All we can be sure of is that it has a considerable heft to it. Otherwise, a single blow to the head wouldn't have smashed in his skull like that. It's not that easy to cave in a person's skull, so the object in question would have to have weighed at least 20 kilograms.
For something like that to just disappear, you'd think such a thing to be impossible. But since the deceased remains a murder victim, we have to say it was possible. Geller must have some means of making the impossible possible. Let's look through our documents one more time. There may be a piece of information that can be seen in a new light.
Is it that? Yeah.
Alright. Finally figured you out, Miss Geller. I know now how you killed the victim.
What? Did you really figure it out? What was the weapon? No, more importantly, where did it go? Was it actually ice in the end?
Please, let the ice pick go. The weapon didn't vanish. It was never there. There was no weapon.
Eh?
There was never a weapon to begin with. And honestly, that only serves to further prove the point that Miss Geller is our culprit. What's that supposed to mean? I truly didn't follow a word. Everyone have a look at Miss Geller's bureau file. Specifically check the notes section at the bottom.
This is where they write down a brief description of the skill. This is talking about the maximum weight that can be transferred to an object, or the weight limit the object can be, to be moved.
No, we figured out that Geller's skill is in telekinesis, so the information written here... The information? It's talking about the property of the objects Geller can create, yes? That's right. Now the information on a bureau file refers to weight, number, size, and duration of the objects in question. And the part we should be paying attention to right now is the weight.
The weight limit? It's 20 kilograms. I heard that exact number just a second ago.
It's the number the sergeant quoted. She said the murder weapon must have weighed at least 20 kilos. Finally, we've found an object that meets her condition. That we have. We now know what you mean when in saying it never existed. Miss Geller, only Miss Geller, could have committed this crime without a weapon. Only she was able to make her own weapon. Can't see it, don't need to carry it around, and it vanishes after time runs out. Use that as a weapon only you could use. Use an object you created with your skill to murder your victim.
You'd make a better clown than me. You really think I could swing around a cube that weighs 20 kilograms? Let's just imagine I could do that. Our ringleader's head was smashed to bits. Do I look that strong to you?
In truth, you wouldn't have to swing it. Don't you remember what you said before? Your skill allows you to create objects wherever you will them. You can make one wherever you please. In other words, your transparent object don't only appear at your feet, you can create within a 2-meter radius of your body. For example, above your victim's head. If a 20-kilo object that appeared high above the victim's head were to fall straight down, wouldn't such a situation be within the realm of possibility?
That's unfortunate.
What is?
The situation you describe is impossible. That wouldn't leave the ringleader's head in the state I found it.
You can make an object weighing up to 20 kilograms, as long as you dropped it from high enough.
That's just the thing. Dropping it from high enough, I can pull that off.
What's that supposed to...
I get it.
Your range, right? Her range?
Seems like someone is thinking like a normal human. It's exactly right. My max range is only 2 meters. I can't create any objects outside of that range. Even if I were to drop something from 2 meters up, I'd have to be really lucky to kill someone. Busting in a skull like that is simply impossible. Things went how you say they went. I'd have to drop it from at least double that. I'd need to drop it from at least 4 meters up.
4 meters? It's a very specific number. You can be so sure of the height.
I've tried a few things out with my skills. For the sake of our shows, of course.
Note, I'm sorry, but I was thinking the same thing. An object falling from 2 meters wouldn't have done that to our corpse.
Are you starting to understand? So, just give it up. You promised.
I'm sorry, but I simply can't do that. Just as Detective Thanos said, Miss Geller's staying calm and collected, sticking to the script she prepared in advance. Though I can hear a slight tremor in her voice. I'm slowly driving her into a corner. There hasn't been a single flaw in my logic up to this point. It's clear that the victim was killed by a falling object. Yet, as Miss Geller claims, her range is insufficient for the crime. In order for Miss Geller to have committed the crime, she would have had to make up for the height difference somehow. For instance, she could have climbed up onto a piece of furniture before using her skill. No, if that were the case, Brian would have seen footprints on the furniture with his skill. There were no such footprints. In fact, at the time of the crime, Miss Geller left no footprints in the room at all. Yet. Speaking of which, there was something that happened when Miss Geller entered the room. I have one more suspicion. Perhaps that suspicion can turn into a clue.
Note, there's no way Geller's getting out of this one. This may be the final answer we're seeking. Tell me, what did she use to create an object 4 meters above the victim's head?
What have we not used? Oh, gosh. Once you stop and think about it, there's something else we haven't figured out besides her murder weapon. Something else? Why is it Miss Geller used the object she made to enter the room?
But of course. Have you figured out the reason why?
Yes. And the answer to that question is connected to the means Miss Geller used to murder her victim. Miss Geller was intent on using her skill to kill her victim. However, she wasn't sure if a single swing of one of her objects would kill him instantly. If the victim didn't die immediately and were let out a yell, that would spell big trouble for her. That's why she settled on dropping the object from a height to do him in. Yet she knew that her range was too short. There was also no guarantee that an object dropped from 2 meters would silence him in one blow. Then, didn't you say you were about to explain why she used her skill to enter the room? You haven't figured it out? Why did Miss Geller use her skill to go inside? How could she be certain she could kill him instantly when she was lacking height? Each question provides an answer to the other.
If I can sum up what you're trying to say, the reason Geller used her skill to enter the room was to make sure she killed him with a single blow. Ah. And that's why.
It is. She thought up a plan. A way to create an object at a height that would surely kill her victim. No, when I really think about it, I'd be willing to bet she already knew her plan, huh? Miss Geller's solution? It was none other than a stunt she pulled on stage. Her stunt? By that, the airwalking clown bit? As she puts it, the jumping jester. Isn't that right, Miss Geller? Miss Geller can only create objects up to 2 meters from her body. If she wanted to create an object higher than that, she'd have to climb up higher. Leaping, really? Up into the air?
That's why she used her skill to enter the room, to get up on the height required to commit the crime.
Geller's range is 2 meters. That means she could create a foothold up to 2 meters away. After she climbs up those 2 meters, another 2 meters from that, she could create the object at will. The resulting object would be 4 meters off the ground. Miss Geller, that satisfies the condition for the murder you set yourself. However, if you check the trace left at the crime scene, we can see other footholds she created starting at the entrance. How could that be?
Miss Geller's skill, all of the invisible objects she's able to create. If she started with a block 2 meters high, she'd never be able to climb it.
That's right. So she started off with some lower steps, and then she slowly increased the height of the footholds as she climbed up each one.
Just like a set of stairs, so it really isn't an air-walking clown. I see the jumping jester thing now.
It's exactly as she committed her crime, too. Even before entering the room, she was already on a small step. Then, little by little, she climbed, moving ever closer to her victim. By the time Geller was in front of the victim, she was close to her maximum height of 2 meters. Then, at her max height, Miss Geller made the largest object she could at 20 kilograms and let it fall. She took the life of the victim who slept beneath her. She made sure she finished the deed. Anyone could have seen the victim was deceased. Miss Geller then fled the scene of the crime, relieved to be done with it. If there was one thing you didn't consider, it was your nightly routine, yes? The victim had a habit of drinking a cup of coffee every night at 9 o'clock, and it was your job, Miss Geller, to bring it to him. You knew that as the first person to find the body, you'd be suspected for the crime. But you could not go either. If you differed from your usual schedule, you'd draw suspicion for the police. Oh gosh. In the end, you made the cup of coffee as usual and made your way to the victim's office. But there was no one there to drink it. Miss Julia Geller, you are the culprit.
Yes, it was me. I killed the ringleader.
Well then, I shall call the probation's office.
Indeed, I'll leave that to you. So, these are the cuffs you only use on staffers? Rumor has it there's a bomb inside that will explode if I resist. Nope, none of that. Nothing so dangerous. Just a high voltage electrical current and a neurotoxin. For me, that might as well be a bomb. Sorry, rules are rules. But you never know when an invisible brick's gonna fall on my head, right?
Harsh rules. Considering today's events, though, it does seem justifiable.
Why would you let us in? I just want to see her face.
Keller couldn't have done that. Let us talk to her.
Julia, can you hear us? Don't say a word until we get to the station, okay? Mr. Vernon, Oz. Thana, go help Brian outside. Aww. Come to think of it, there's one thing we haven't quite figured out, huh?
Huh? That can't be right.
Miss Julia Geller, the part of your statement about not holding a grudge toward the victim was no lie. Then why? Why kill the man? You know the ringleader held a considerable debt, right? To settle his debt, he was going to sell the circus troupe. He said he was going to sell not only the theater, but also the right to perform under the brand. When I was called into his office at 7:30, the ringleader spilled the black tea I brought him and yelled at me like he was getting something off his chest. He said all of it was my fault, that everything was how it was because I was such a lousy person. I couldn't disagree with the man.
But everyone said the debt was because of his gambling, no?
Yet, he said the reason he turned to gambling was because of the declining profits from the theater. That part I'm responsible for.
This woman, she's been blaming herself for everything all night. How'd she get into this state?
I pleaded with him. I said I'd do anything if he asked if he'd just hold on a little longer. And that's when it hit me. I knew it was coming. He's not the sort of person to change his mind just because I opened my mouth. I had to stop him, but there was only one way to do that.
By that you mean killing the man.
For me, it was all I could do. This is the only place I can live like any other normal human. Instead of losing this place, I'd rather... In the end, you figured out it was me who did it, but things didn't turn out so bad. The rights will fall to Vernon. The three of us were going to continue together, if we could.
You happy?
What?
Whatever reason you might have, you still killed a man. Don't you feel the least bit guilty?
Guilty? Am I even allowed to feel something like guilt? How can I put this? I'm sad that the person I killed is dead. Can I really say I regret it after everything I've done, though? If someone who brutally killed another person were to turn around and have the nerve to cry about it, would you really accept that?
Sergeant, I'm sorry, but would you mind if I waited at the car?
All right, you've done enough. Miss Geller, due to the provisions of the contract made between the Bureau and the Attorney General's office, you will be sent to a prison belonging to the former. I'll give you a moment to talk to the other members of your troupe. They're not listening to us anyways, so make your peace. All right, and sorry for today. No, I'm sorry.
On my first day of work, I was nearly shot at and kicked off the force, but in the end, I solved the case. So why do I feel this way? On top of that, I can't see the Big Ben from here either. What's my reason exactly? What on earth brought me to this city? Hey, looks like you've solved the case.
Stopping by again?
You came back alone?
I sent Nova off because he said he needed to get some air.
Note, huh? I've seen you grow to like a detective case. How is he? Up to snuff?
He definitely helped us out, and he's quite the talented individual compared to me. However, I think calling him a genius as you did is pushing it. He's a little clumsy in places, and more than anything, he's severely lacking in his understanding of phenomena.
So, that's the whole that's not the whole job, is it?
42 minutes. Besides the time it took us to get out there and back, that's how long he's spent on this case. Excepting the time it took us to survey the crime scene, that is significantly shorter than before. Before Notre came along, it took us at least 3 times that at our very fastest. It normally takes people time to read through and comprehend the documents, time to understand all the clues and come to a conclusion. Notrek's logical abilities need neither. There's almost no gap between his receiving a question and coming up with the answer. Honestly, following his steps in logic is too much to ask. It's not simply a matter of intelligence either, that kid. Are you sure he's no staffer?
From the way he describes it, when he focuses on something, it feels like time around him ceases to flow. However, no manner was detected coming from Detective Case that you'd normally find when staffers use their skill. You know what that means, right?
Notrek's abilities stem purely from his talent.
Seems that way. Phenomenal abilities are distinguishable from phenomena. Actually, maybe it's more than that. Rather interesting, is it not? Imagine what a talented boy can do in this city when he's not weighed down by the disadvantages of being a staffer.
Is that the only reason you hired him?
Sergeant Redfins? The tone you just took makes me feel like this is an interrogation, and that bothers me a bit.
My apologies.
A sharp tone. Something not go your way?
Quite the opposite. Our case is closed, so I was just about to go out for a smoke.
Smoking's bad for you. You should turn to sweets like me. Stop by this new ice cream parlor in the square. It's not half bad.
If you knew you'd bring it up, you should have brought some to share.
Would have melted.
Is someone there?
Ah, Sergeant.
How did you find this place? The way up here is an absolute maze, and I'm pretty much the only one able to navigate it.
I saw the map on the 4th floor and noticed a space that looked different from the other floors, so...
Okay, I think I follow. Still, it'd be better if you didn't wander around too much. If you wander into a prohibited area, it'll be the firing squad for you.
Figured it out a short time ago, but as I expected, our employer is the worst around.
Hearing you say that, I guess you're finally a fully fledged employee.
Honestly, I thought you were joking just a second ago.
I'm honored you'd think that. Cigarette?
No, I don't smoke.
All right. Nice view, huh?
You can barely see through all the fog.
Right? Good luck today. Honestly, it's not that good a view on a clear day. There are only factories and a slum out that way. It's only when the fog covers all that muck that the view is worth looking at. At least, it's worth looking at for me.
Sergeant, those 3, they seem to harbor some resentment towards the Bureau. I mean, it does seem natural for them not to like us since we place regulations on the staffers. This feels like more than that. It was something Miss Geller said. Just being a staffer is like a wound you have to live with. Sergeant, is life as a staffer in the city difficult?
It is.
Why's that? Don't your skills make life easier for you?
If you want the answer to that question, you only need to take a look at the bureau file.
The bureau file?
There's a part of every bureau file that shows you just how staffers are viewed in the city. Do you know which part I'm referring to?
You're talking about the threat level.
That's right. Given the staffer's a threat level presumes that every staffer poses a threat. We predict the amount of damage each staffer is capable of causing, and we regulate them accordingly. At a cult level, Geller may as well have been born with a revolver in her hand. We restrict her access to certain places, so it would have been impossible for her to find a proper job. Then, add to that the amount of discrimination she has to tolerate from the rest of society. Of course, there are times when a skill is recognized as useful, and the Bureau hires the staffer on. Have you noticed the metal bracelets Dana and Brian wear? I've got one of them under my sleeve, too. All staffers are required by law to wear them.
The performers at the tower were wearing those bracelets, too. Huh. Unlike the one Detective Brian wears, theirs were lit up.
The light represents the staffer's threat level. Geller and Vernon were yellow for their cold, and Aston was green for her Bowie level. The staffers who work at the Bureau are able to hide the color of their lights. That's why my bracelet isn't lit up.
In other words, staffers outside the Bureau are required by law to wear a bracelet that displays their threat level. Staffers are treated like they were threats from the moment they were born and can never hide the fact that they have skills. Miss Geller, that's why she was so obsessed about her fellow performers at the tower.
I have no idea what sort of ideals brought you to London, but I think, just maybe, this isn't the sort of place you thought it was going to be.
I'm not sure what it was that brought me here. I told myself it was to use my talents to help people, but I doubt it was really for something so noble. It's like I wanted to be the protagonist of a detective novel, solving some cryptic case at a single glance, feared by those around me, making a good deal of cash, finding cases with a dim-witted assistant tagging along. That's vaguely what I imagined. Honestly, I never thought I'd be able to live that sort of life, but still, I accepted the offer to join the team because I thought I could put my talent to good use. However, once I solved the case, I figured something out. The person who was killed wasn't a character from a novel. It was real. It was a real person who killed him. I was the only character there, a relaxed inspector. Then I started having these thoughts. Is there no better alternative for the victim and the culprit? Will Geller ever try to get revenge on me if she's let out of prison? Why did I go through all that to catch the criminal when no one is rewarded for her being behind bars? Did I really do the right thing? Still, with all that, they're just thoughts.
The victim, Houdin, started out as a respectable ringleader. That only changed when Yulia Geller joined the troupe. Houdin took out a loan to buy props for Yulia Geller's performance, but the returns were poor. Houdin started gambling to try to pay off the debts the circus took on, and then the addiction took hold. Geller said it herself, all the blame was on her. Geller knew she caused it all, so she was ready to protect the tower at all costs. Then, she settled on murder, the worst means possible. Geller continued after that. She said she was looking for someone to stop her and punish her for her crimes. Perhaps Geller was actually grateful that you solved this case?
Are you serious?
No, that last part was a lie.
Isn't that going too far? Seriously.
If what I said was true, would that give our job some other meaning? No. A detective job is always the same note. We're here to find the truth. It's not our job to make the world a better place or tell right from wrong. We're just here to find the truth. If it's something else you're wanting, use the time you've grumbled and griped to get on a plane or whatever and head back home. However,
If you don't know what you want, then stay here. Stay, find whatever truth may come, and keep on complaining like you are today. After all, there are certain things that start just that way. Making the world a better place, telling right from wrong. Maybe you'll find whatever it is you're looking for along the way. Shall we head back to work? We've still got the reports to write up about our case today. Could I stay here just a bit longer? It's sort of hazy, but I think I can just make out the hands of a clock out that way. Unfortunate, really. This place used to be all mine.